Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast, the most esteemed of guests in the sense that, I don't know, actually nothing. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. No, here's why he is esteemed. He's still, unlike me, who gave up practicing law a very long time ago because I don't know. I have a better shit to do. This person has stuck it out for the betterment of his family, and he now lives in a beautiful house in New Jersey, while I live in a smaller, shittier house here in Long Island because I don't practice law anymore. He does, so he's my hero because he does the tough work for his family, in addition to writing about movies and also, of course, coming on here and commenting about the Knicks. Bernard Ozarowski, hello, sir.
Why, thank you for that kind introduction, pointing out the thing that I hate most about my day-to-day existence. It's wonderful.
That's the least I could do. Also here, of course, because Yash could not be here. I believe Yash is currently doing something is he in Miami?
He is in Miami.
He is in Miami. We won't guess as to what he is doing or not doing in Miami.
It's probably a salsa dance competition.
It is probably a salsa dance competition. That's not a joke, actually.
It's not actually a joke, yeah.
But filling in admirably as the third leg of the law school trio, Andrew Claudio. Andrew, you could have gone to law school, I think.
Hell no.
Sure you could have.
No, there's not enough editing and computer work that is involved. There's research and reading, which I enjoy, but anytime someone makes me read, it's like, nah, I'm out. Sorry.
Okay, then you probably would not have.
I would be a terrible lawyer. Plus, I also am there for I was wrong. Okay, you're right, Your Honor. Like, I'm there to admit it when I'm wrong. Go ahead.
I got to tell you, I sat next to Macri in multiple law school classes, and I don't think he did the reading a single time.
So you're saying I could have been a bad lawyer?
That's a lie. I read. Hold on, really quickly, because I'm sure people are fascinated to listen to this. I read all of my torts cases because I enjoyed torts, and I read a decent number of the criminal law cases.
Yes, that's like 2 of the 30 classes you take in law school.
Okay, well, it's something. It's better than nothing. I wanted to be I know I did graduate with above a 3.0, and I did pass the bar the first time I took it. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Knicks. We've been talking about the Knicks all week, but we're other than the banter that I had with Colin, which was a lot of fun. We really haven't gotten into the nitty gritty of previewing this series. So that's why we wanted to bring you on, Bernard. Opening thoughts, confident, not confident, feeling, how are we feeling going into this bad boy?
I got to tell you, it's weird to say there's almost a little bit of a house money feel because I would have perhaps sold years off of the lives of my children just to be in the play-in game this year. And now we all would have. And now we're hosting a series. That is bonkers. And not just are we hosting a series, but we're hosting a series that we could actually legitimately, conceivably win. Yeah. And I'm picking us to win with my objective nerd name. I am. I think this is a winnable series. I feel pretty good.
Can you give me one objective thing? Because I've been poring over the numbers and the film the last several days. And I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Let me just turn to you. Objectively, give me one thing objectively why you think this is a winnable series for the Knicks.
I don't think there's any option on the Hawks side to deal with Randall. Randall has shown it multiple times during the season. He's stepped up. He's also, I was worried all year they were going to hit a wall from playing 40 minutes every night for all the starters, and it just hasn't happened. And maybe that happens in the second round, but I certainly think they have the stamina left to get past the Hawks.
I think, okay, I'm with you on Randall. I'm with you on Randall because I agree with you. They don't have a way to stop Randall other than to aggressively double team him and hope he makes the right play, which he has for the most part this season. So that's a good sign. And the Knicks have hit shots off of those doubles for the most part this season. My fear is I think it's 2 or 3-fold. Can I give you a couple things?
Please.
You tell me how crazy or not crazy I am being. One, the Hawks did not shoot particularly well from 3 against us this season, and Trae Young in particular. Trae Young hit 3 3-pointers against the Knicks this season. 3 for 14. Not very good. He shot 35%. Yeah. And I would love to say that the Knicks did some like bang up job defending him. They did okay when he got close to the rim and like made his life difficult inside the arc. But like they also just kind of gave up some shots and he just missed a bunch of them. So there's that. And they also, and this is the part that I'm really focused on, Clint Capella is just a beast. And he has like been getting progressively better against us as opposed to us figuring out ways to stop him. He went from scoring 12 in the first game, 20 in the second game, 26 in the third game, and he was on his way to a 30 spot until Young went down with the injury, and then that was that. How are we stopping that pick and roll? Because I'm not sure I have a great answer for that.
Well, look, that's going to be a difficult spot. Look, I think the reality here is that so much of this is going to come down to the Knicks defense holding up against what's going to be a better attack than we've seen before. And look, there's no more Rajon Rondo taking these minutes to benefit us here. But so I think he only played in one of the games. But regardless,
but like Cam Reddish, like there was a lot of Cam Reddish going on during games of the series, and he's probably going to be out. And DeAndre Hunter is now back, and he only played.
He's a beast,
an absolute beast. So like Bogey's there, Hunter's there. Onkongwu was like a player now. Like all of these guys are now here and healthy, and like I'm scared.
I get the cause for concern, and I think, look, one of the things that most concerns me, and I'm sure that many listeners are going to nod along here, is what Elfrid Payton does in the minutes that he's given. I, for one, am certainly hoping and praying that Tibbs gives Frank some chances here, gives Frank the chance to see what he can do against Trey. I think that's an area where we can shift the balance a little bit. Look, Trey lighting us up is a legitimately terrifying thought, but I think part of it is, over the last few weeks, a lot of these Knicks players have ascended to another level. You look at someone like Bullock, and Bullock is a comfortably better, more reliable player. He's become a real fucking cog here. He is made
himself a lot of money.
He's definitely made himself a lot of money. Someone may pay him some crazy money soon, but he is the number 3 guy on this team, a legitimate option. And frankly, he's become a pretty damn devastating outside shooter. And we have, look, RJ has also continued to ascend. He is not tired. And it seems like quickly, briefly hit the wall and has gotten over it. It seems like we have taken steps forward in ways that help account for the better Hawks team that we're going to see this week.
I noticed there was a little, I think it was Kirk Goldsberry, put out the little photographic on Twitter of like the best shooters from each position on the court this year. And Randall's smiling face was in his like baseline position on the left side of the basket there. And you know who was smiling right next to him in the left corner? RJ Barrett, baby. Most proficient 3-point shooter in the league this year, which is crazy. So now I'm going to bring Andrew in because I know how much Andrew loves math. And I want to throw some math at both of you, but Oz, I'll toss it to you first, and then Andrew, I'll let you respond. There's two things that I'm wondering specifically in regards to Trae Young. So he this year is 34% from deep on significantly less last season. He was over 36% on over 9 attempts a game. This season, he's at 34% on like a little over 6 attempts a game. He's basically 3 fewer attempts from deep per 36 minutes. We talk about this in our text chain far too much for my liking, but you and Yash get into it a lot in terms of like sample sizes and when is it wise to extrapolate something from a sample size and when is it not. So my thinking is like, hey, if this is what Trae Young is this year, maybe it's best to just go under like the screens that get set at the top and make sure he can't get into the lane and start tossing shit to Capella and like ping, 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 the ball goes around and to their open 3-point shooters. Like is 1 year of 34% shooting, Bernard, would that be enough to get you to alter your game plan?
You know, I think that, and I can't say that I know the precise calculus here, but he was 36.1% last year,
season,
and 34.3% this year. 1.8 percentage points. It's within variance. They're both roughly 35%. I think the fact that the 36 is done on about 3 more attempts per game does carry a little bit of weight. It speaks to, frankly, him hitting more while being leveraged more as a 3-point shooter. I think he's also doing more off the dribble this year, sort of throughout the entire game plan.
Yeah.
And, that impacts the opportunities. But I think that, look, small series variance, the guy can shoot 3-pointers. Who fucking knows? It's really the short answer. But I think the longer answer, I think there is a little bit of cause for concern about his 3-point shooting this year. A worse conversion rate on fewer attempts is never something you want to say.
Yeah, Andrew, you want to chime in on this because I know you're a big math guy.
Yeah, big math guy. Trae Young is, to be honest, like 3rd or 4th on the things that actually scare me in this series. It's
really
so the Capella thing you've already hit on. The Knicks just don't have an answer in the pick and roll for him, and they showed it in the last game. It just got to a point where anytime they got past that first line of defense, it's like, oh, so Clint Capella is going to get a layup. Got it. And it's also the boards that kind of scare me from a Capella standpoint, whether it be Drummond or anybody down the stretch that was getting any rebounds that they wanted against the Knicks.
That was the other thing. Over the 3 games, he had 2 offensive rebounds in the first game against the Knicks, then 6 in the second game, and then 9 offensive rebounds in the third game. That's
the boards scare me. So then you go down the list, like the 3-point shooting scares me more. Like, I think the Knicks will have a good plan for Trae. It's literally everything else that lead to, like I said, the first to 115 that I think they're going to have to play.
That's a frightening thought. I mean, I know we turned a corner offensively and like we were much better offensively down the stretch of the season, but then you watch them go. Like, I went down the line the last 5 games of the year. Every one of those games, they had stretches of like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes where they'd scored like 0 points or 2 points or like 4 points. But again, I don't know, Bernard, I'll turn it back to you because like, I just don't know what to take from that versus like Tibbs has had a week. Like, isn't that really important to give a guy like Thibodeau a week?
I think you give Thibodeau a week. It helps him to come up with something. Look, I sort of avoided your Capella question the first time because I don't have a great answer either for what they're going to do here. You need a little, frankly, a little prayer, a little hope that Noel can find an extra gear even beyond to help cover all the chaos. Or Taj, of course.
We love Taj.
We love Taj.
Friend of
Taj,
the pod.
Literal favorite player on the Knicks right now.
Same here.
Adore him. But look, Taj is not a young man anymore and perhaps doesn't quite have the quickness that one would need for that assignment. I mean, look, I wouldn't lose sleep if Taj were to put Capella on his ass in a very, very vicious way early in the first game of the series and see how Capella responds to that. I think it would be a lovely 90s era Knicks thing to start this thing out on the right foot. But that's
what we have Norvell Pell for.
We could send Pell out there for his 2 minutes of playoff time.
If Norvell Pell is playing minutes in this series, it's because the Knicks are down by 30 and the game got out of hand and it's terrifying.
Oh wait, no, hold on. More math real quick.
Oh no.
Capella's a 53% free throw shooter for his career, 56% this year. The last game he missed a bunch of big free throws down the stretch. I think he was 1 for 5. But he's 56% this year. Like, I don't know.
Shack the hell out of him.
I don't think that's insane. I mean, so 56% translates to 1.12 points per possession. That's a goodly amount in the NBA. That's not nothing. But like, I don't know, as a way to kind of disrupt but here's the thing. The Knicks haven't done that all year. I actually don't know. Does any team do that anymore against any center? I feel like that's kind of gone away.
It's kind of gone away. It's kind of inefficient too.
Is it inefficient?
I think so.
It depends. Like, because then you're in the bonus quicker. So like if a team just wants to take that guy off the court after they've gotten you in the bonus, and then like guys that are better at free throw shooting drive and they have the rest of the quarter to make free throws, you know?
Okay. So that makes sense. So maybe that's not a strategy to go to, but whatever. We have guys to throw at him. They do have fouls to give, maybe not as a strategy. I don't know.
Every time Oz holds up his Knicks Film School mug, warms my heart a little bit.
I'm doing it studiously.
You're doing it
make sure we get the logo. Yeah,
that might be that's going to be the thumbnail for this podcast. Is you holding up a Knicks Film School mug? I love
excellent.
it.
It has to be. Okay. So let's talk about briefly the Knicks on. I guess let's talk about the Knicks on offense. Right now, it seems like they've kind of, I don't want to use the word devolved because that puts a negative connotation on it, but like they've kind of turned the offense over to Derrick Rose for 15 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. Is it 15? It feels like 15 minutes a game where they're just basically telling him like, go
have fun.
Yeah. Go. Thank you. Go have fun. It has worked. He's making these like little mid-rangers and stuff at not a preposterous rate, but it's a not a insignificant sample size, and he's making a decent a number of them over several weeks. But again, Oz, like, you think, is that a strategy that you would go back to the well on?
We don't have a lot of other options at the one. There's only so there's only so many minutes one can watch Elfrid Payton before vomiting. So
I was wondering if we could get to this whole thing without saying Elfrid Payton.
Well, obviously we weren't going to do that.
Obviously,
what
but I wanted to see if we could. Halfway through is fine.
It was difficult for me to hold back, but look, Elf is not a starting NBA point guard anymore. I know, Macker, you did the rundown a couple days ago of all the guys who would have added like at least 5 wins this year, and it was, what'd you end up at, like 26 point guards or something? Would have added something crazy like that.
It's a good number.
And look, we're stuck on that, and we have a wonderful sixth man who's kind of sort of a point guard in Rose, and we have a defensive stopper back there. So we have to sort of triage the hell out of those minutes at the one. Quickly, he'll get some time 2-ish. So look, I think we're stuck hoping that Rose can keep the magic going, and if he can't keep the magic going, we're not going to advance.
Tell us how you really feel. No, I don't. I actually don't think that that's wrong. Although I will say this. Quickly has been the most impactful player in the first 3 games of in the 3 games that these two teams have played this year. What is it? It's some obscene plus 39 or something is his net rating, whatever, over the course of like 71 minutes. It's an absurd figure. But if Rose, for argument's sake, doesn't have it in a game or a couple of games, like, I think that's the go-to for them. And like, that is, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. Let me just say this about Elfrid Payton. He was shooting like 56, 57% around the rim up until like the last 3 weeks of the season, when he just completely became a shell of himself. If his defense was actually as good as everybody says it is, and he was just going to hit 57% of his shots around the rim, I'd be like, fine. You want to give him 6 minutes to start each half? Fine. I don't even care. But like, we're not even getting that anymore. So I don't know what to do. Bernard, who would you start? Who would your starting lineup be? I'm assuming you would keep the rest of the lineup the same.
I actually think I'd start Frank.
Would you really?
This is insane.
Oh my God.
Claudia just exploded.
We need to add context now.
Please.
I got introduced to Oz in Saber World and how much he leans on the heavy need to prove against the, not necessarily need to prove against the eye test, but like the eye test can sometimes lie to you when you dig deeper into the numbers. And I got introduced to Oz and the Saber side of things with Elf isn't actually that bad when you look at the sample size of his career stats.
Oh, career stats. Yeah,
that's what you're saying. Like, he's performing below.
But that was accurate.
Right, but that was accurate. We were all like, okay, but it's detrimental to the team. Like, and you were like, but give it time. It might normalize out. There's no way for a guy.
And it didn't. He got old. Well, he's weathered away.
Right. And then when we brought up Frank, you were like, look at Frank's career stats. There's nothing to say that he's ever going to be anything more than a mediocre offensive player, a below average offensive player, and an average defensive player.
Well, I don't know about average. I think I've always thought that he had a role as a gadget player who could come in and basically be used as a stopper on some guy on the other team, really anywhere from the 1 to the 4, where his only job is to stick on him for the entire time that he's on the court. Please.
No, just like the point is to now arrive here that we're going into the next first playoff game in 8 years. And you're like, we should start Frank. That, as what's your face and Insecure would say, is growth. And I'm proud.
Great show. I love that show.
I'm proud of you.
Look, it's not any particular love for Frank, but when, as John says, we're talking about 6 minutes to start each half. We're not talking about the lion's share of the minutes back there. We're talking about a stretch against the other side starters where we're going to have our 4 top dogs on the court otherwise, and are sending him out there to basically play havoc on the defensive end and not fuck things up on the offensive end. I think for limited stretches before you move on to Rose at the, halfway through the first quarter, I think that's a reasonable thing. And it's also, look, it seems to me at this point, it's low downside. The elf fucks things up side of the coin has gotten so extreme over the last couple of weeks that the bland, boring, minimal offense. So he's hit some big threes lately, but let's say minimal offense from Frank and good defense. That is enough for me to give him, 12 minutes a game.
I think it's reasonable. My one doubt is because I just spend way too much time on this shit. I went back and watched every defensive possession that Frank had. Actually, not every defensive possession Frank had against Trae Young. Every one that Trae Young shot it on. And I could not find a single instance where Frank was able to, where I personally felt like Frank did a good job defending him. I feel like Trae Young snaked his way around, were they some of the moving screens? Not really, honestly, because I would be stationary and then he would pivot as Trae Young is then dribbling around with the ball and whatever. But Frank is a bigger, longer guy, and Trae Young is the weight of my daughter over here, who's 4 years old. No, but Frank has had difficulty sticking with him, and then Frank's also a little foul prone. That said, I think Frank's been better on defense, even though he hasn't played as much. I actually think Frank's been better on defense this year than he had, more consistent and just generally. I trust him more on defense this year, and I think Tibbs trusts him. I would be fine with it. My personal choice would be Burks, because then if it's Burks, who's Trae Young going to guard in the starting 5? I think you could get Trae Young into now. That brings the risk, and again, Oz, I'll turn back to you. Do you disrupt what you usually do as far as a game plan to try to get Trae Young in foul trouble, or is that fool's gold to do that?
I think playing for foul trouble is fool's gold, because who the hell knows what's going to happen? Who knows what calls are going to happen? Trae Young is going to get every coin flip call over Burks, or it's just not even close here, especially in a playoff series. They're not going to put Trae Young on the bench 6 minutes into the first half.
And to piggyback on that, you're then taking the game out of your offense.
Now I need to refill my wine.
You're putting the game in the ref's hands instead. And you're saying, okay, ref, make a call, rather than trying to actually put an offense out there that can beat the Hawks. I think there's a much more simple solution that I think we're all afraid to say it. Just start Derrick Rose and stagger the minutes.
So I don't... Okay, so if
we're
you're
talking
telling me
12 minutes, right? So why can't Frank fill those 12 minutes elsewhere?
But here's the thing. I don't think I think we're all in agreement that the Knicks cannot ever have a moment where Derrick Rose or Julius Randle isn't on the court.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what's Julius playing? 42 minutes, 44 minutes?
He will play 49 minutes a game.
No, he'll play 40. Barrett, I really do think we may see a 48-minute Barrett game. I think it's in the cards. We've seen 24-minute Barrett halves, second halves. So why not go all the way? But gosh, now I'm starting to think like fucking Thibodeau. When you brought up the Burks thing about the foul issue, let's say Burks is trying to draw fouls and it doesn't happen, and meanwhile Young gets him into foul trouble on the other end, then all of a sudden now you've lost Burks. And so now again, you could still push RJ, you could push Reggie, but then you've lost one more bench cog. And let's say it's a night where Quickly doesn't have it. But now I'm thinking, you mentioned starting Rose. God forbid, can you imagine Rose got into foul trouble against Young in the starting 5? Like by starting, I can't even fucking defending this. By starting Peyton, you do buy yourself but you do buy yourself 5 or 6 minutes of time where guess what? If Elfrid Payton gets 3 fouls on Trey or commits 3 fouls on Trae Young in the first 5-6 minutes of the game, who gives a fuck? He sucks. But you've used those. But is this insane? I feel like I'm talking
myself
losing
at the end of those 6 minutes.
And the same logic applies to Frank.
I think there's a higher upside.
The same logic does apply to Frank, because if you've lost Frank for the rest of the half, who gives a shit?
Shucks.
Yeah. What my thought is like, I would rather match fire with Rose for the first 6 minutes. And then if you want to take Rose out then and go quickly, or Burks usually comes in midway through the first anyway. So and then bring Rose back in the second quarter with the second unit, like always. It's just like you're staggering the minutes differently.
So basically you're
take him out. Go ahead.
You're starting Rose and you're pulling Rose pretty fast. You're pulling Rose after like 6 or 7 minutes.
6, 7, 8 minutes in. You play out how the game goes.
I don't think Thibodeau.
We're kind of bullshitting on a podcast right now, so we know what's going to happen on Sunday.
No, hold on.
You think there's more than a 10% chance that it's not Elfrid Payton?
Do I want to say this? Because I'm gonna have.
You've been giving us odds all week. What odds do I have to give you for Elfrid Payton not to be in that? Let me just
say this. From what I understand, and again, take everything I'm about to say and fucking pour salt all over it. From what I understand, there has been consideration given at some point. I don't know if it's being in consideration right now, but at some point there was consideration given to starting Burks over Payton.
Mm-hmm.
Just take it for what it's worth.
All right.
That's what I've heard.
This is the media side of Macri coming out, Oz.
Well, I don't really do it that much anymore, but
this is we got something out of you. We got a nugget, is what we got. Did. Okay, so now I'm gonna
breaking news here.
Dude, I swear to God, if you put this fucking clip out, I'm gonna kill you.
Too late. I already marked it. I already put a star next to Burks is going to start on Sunday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, no, here's what's gonna happen: is if aggregators, Alec Burks is in the graphic on Sunday, you know who to credit.
Okay, there you go. Otherwise, please forget I ever said this.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
I mean, but look, of course they're considering things, right? Of course they're considering. How would you fucking not consider things? You watch the games. I don't know which is the smartest pivot. Bernard, you make a lot of sense, because if it's Frank, it's just who gives a shit. It's like, what's the worst? He can't be worse. What did I think I quoted, or I put it in my newsletter recently. Elf has hit like 35% of his shots over the last 8 games or something obscene. He's hit like a field goal, whatever. It's sub like G League player. If Frank hits 1 out of every 3 threes, and that's all he does is he stands in the corner, he takes threes.
Live with.
Yeah, but then you're running every offense, unless you're going to run a few through Barrett, and then it gets into the discussion of Barrett because he's been slumping as well. So it's like, are you going to run every offensive possession through Julius Randle for the first 6 minutes of the game? It's tough. These are not easy. Like, but this is why. What? So
that might be Randall's bigger burden here, is that instead of going up to 46 minutes a game or something, you keep him at 40 and you run even more of the offense through him to start the game.
Which they already kind of.
They're going to do it anyway. Even with Elf there, it's all going to run through him. And I will say to Andrew's point, I think, look, here's the problem with Rose and what they've done with the second unit. And I know there's going to be a really tight rotation. Thibodeau's not going to use a lot of players, but I think there's a consistency element that is not just important to Thibodeau, but is actually important to the players. I think there's a real thing to chemistry and getting used to a game plan and who you expect to be on the court with.
And the results speak for themselves. They've 41 wins.
And I agree completely. And I think that subbing out one relatively similar player to Payton for Payton is a lot different downstream impact on the rest of the roster than moving Rose. Than moving Rose up and then having Payton or Burks or whoever
it's a great point
playing those minutes, deep in the first half.
In that case, Burks is the answer.
No, I think Frank is the answer, because then you don't shift anything else around. Everything else stays as.
So then, Frank is the answer. That's what I meant.
I think the only caveat there is that, like, they kind of haven't really had any consistency in terms of the second unit, specifically from a point of like Rose, Burks, and Quickly haven't played that much together. Because like Burks was out for a while, Rose was out for a while. Yeah, but here's the thing. That's why to me, it's a Burks or Frank question. I don't think you mess with everything else and put Rose in the starting lineup. I don't think you mess with everything and put Quickly in the start. I don't think he's going to start Quickly.
So the only reason I even thought of like what putting Rose in the starting lineup and staggering, and the only example I kept thinking about throughout the season was I think it was the first season that the Warriors had KD, the Cavs. All year, everybody's like, you need to play Kevin Love at the 5. You need to play Kevin Love at the 5. And Ty Lue's like, we like what Tristan gives us. We like LeBron.
That's a center, though.
But my point was more the example of they did something all year, and then game 1, Kevin Love is starting at the 5. So my thought was maybe Tibbs is like, we don't want to give anybody film on what we're doing in the postseason, and we will wait to unveil this new rotation come playoffs, which. This would be the game I even go back to is the game against the Mavericks where Frank all of a sudden came out for the fourth quarter and the Knicks pulled away with that was the first time we saw RJ play an entire second half. And it was like, oh, okay, so maybe they have some tricks up their sleeve that they don't want to show people until they get to the postseason. It's just they also made it to the postseason by the skin of their teeth. So I wonder if they should have pulled out those tricks sooner.
I don't think Thibodeau has that gear. Okay. I don't think he has the gear to. He's not the guy coming up with load management plans. Let's put it that way. He's not someone who's going to take games off or risk losses along the way. I think he's probably sitting at home now, pissed off they're not the 3 seed. It's his mentality is that every game matters. And look, maybe they'll pay for it down the line. Hopefully it's in the second round or later, but the entire season, he played basically every game like they were there to win.
Yes.
There was none of this, they're down by 25 and fucking Randall and Barrett are still out there, or they're up by 25 and Randall and Barrett are still out there.
He looks at as free practice time.
Yes, of course.
Like I'm not going to get to practice tomorrow because we've played a game today. So I'm going to use this time to practice. That's his
sure. But that's damage. Those are minutes that people are playing that take a toll on them this year and take a toll on them long term. And if he were someone who's going to hold back and hide shit and come up with some sort of grand secret plan for the playoffs, this is. Let me cross sports. Let me cross the sports streams for 1 minute here.
Please.
Last year, the Yankees decided they were going to start Davy Garcia in the playoffs. It was a big thing. Everyone was very excited. They were going to go with the young rookie kid, and they used him for one fucking inning and then went to boring, shitty J Happ for the rest of the game.
I know who J Happ is.
You hate J Happ.
I hate J Happ. And he got absolutely face fucked because he'd never come out as a reliever. He was just trash. And he was unhappy. Davey was unhappy. Everyone was unhappy because they tried to be too fucking cute. And being too cute in the playoffs gets you burned far more than it doesn't. And my fear is that if we get too cute with the rotations, look, marginal shifts, plugging in, plugging out, like sitting elf could be, is one thing, but shifting everything around as some sort of grand, long form, Littlefinger-esque plan is not what I think Tibbs is doing.
It's going to be hilarious, John?
What?
If when Alfred comes out and he has 10 points in the first 6 minutes of game 1, and we all look like morons. And Trae Young has 3 fouls.
No, but that's on the table because here's the thing: if he starts Peyton, I guarantee. Because here's the thing, and this is what I was going to say. I don't know if it's a legal thing you learn in law school, but it's certainly a thing you learn in life. The simplest explanation is usually the correct one. Is there a Latin phrase for that we learned, Bernard?
Isn't it Occam's razor? Isn't that the?
Oh, maybe that's it. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's much.
Never felt more lost on this podcast.
Occam's razor isn't a law thing. I just thought it was a law thing for a second. Anyway,
Latin then fine.
The simplest explanation is that Tibbs has known all along, with Alfred in there, he can buy whether it's 3 or 4 or 5 possessions in the first 6 minutes of each half, where he could just give Peyton the ball and tell Peyton to drive to the rim and put up the best shot he could put up. Would it have been nice if he kicked out on a few more of those and acted like an actual point guard instead of a robot that was programmed to just put it up as close to the rim as you can. Center present be damned. Yes, that would have been nice. Unfortunately, that extra gear in his mind seems to have vanished because I can't remember the last time he drove and kicked. Neither here nor there. But like that's what he did. And for up until like the last, I don't know, when did Alpha really start looking like a corpse out there? 6 games, 8 games. Like it was actually justifiable because the numbers kind of justified it and the team's record justified it. And like it kept everything else in place. Now that it's gotten to the point where he's like whatever this is, I just don't know. Maybe, but to your point, Andrew, maybe he comes out and it's like in those 5 or 6, drives, he scores on 4 of them.
That's the beauty of the postseason. It's literally a brand new season. The numbers are different. Obviously, Oz, you'd be as baseball guys. We've seen this forever. Guy is like a 220 hitter all season. Then comes into the postseason, first at bat, hits a home. Daniel Murphy, never been a significant home run hitter till his career. Then homers in 6 straight games during the playoffs and leads the Mets to the World Series. This happens a lot. Now, I don't know if basketball it happens a lot, but it's on the table. Can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
If it's not the Knicks, who are you rooting for out of each conference?
Ooh,
like
that's a great
not
question.
Your pick, but like emotionally, because I have like 2 teams that I'm secretly rooting for that I don't know how far they're going to go outside of the Knicks.
Who am I rooting for? I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, I will root like hell for the Knicks against this team. Between Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Philly, I just would enjoy Philly in the finals more than those other 2 teams.
Okay.
I've always liked Joel Embiid. I enjoy watching him. I respect that he's a big fucking goofball and that he talks all kinds of shit to like other people who are supposed to be the best centers in the league, and he is dismissive of them like they're nothing. And he talks about them as if they're nothing. I think I love that. But out west, do I really care? I mean, I like Jokic. That'd be fuck Denver, Philly. Yeah, or how about that? That'd be fun.
Yeah, Denver, Philly.
I've always been a center guy. I love centers. I love watching centers do their thing. So why not that?
Taj Gibson.
Taj Gibson is a center. There you go.
Oz.
Leaving aside that I like that Joel Embiid was originally going to be the part of Kevin Garnett in Uncut Gems. That's who they wrote it for.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was Stoudemire.
Both. There were multiple versions of this.
Oh, that's right.
They've been selling the Embiid story hard. But I really like PJ Tucker. I think that guy's awesome. I think he's a savage. I'd like to see Milwaukee, if it's not the Knicks, break through. I think it would be nice for Giannis. I think it'd be nice for the league. I think Tommy D would recognize that they're finally respecting Giannis if they make it through. And
no comment.
No comment. No comment. No comment.
And out in the West, I feel look at my last name. It looks like a fucking typo. I have to support my Eastern European folks. Let's go, Luka. I hope I can't give it up. I hope the Mavericks are the team out of the West.
Very last thing. Other than the Nets, I'll be rooting against the Mavs the most. That said, look, despite what I said, I'm honest on this podcast, even if it gets me into trouble. I think this way about Luka. I don't want Luka to win because I fucking hate that team. That said, I think if you're a Knicks fan, aren't you kind of like contractually obligated to root for Dallas in this series? Because the chances of Kawhi leaving right now, whether they're 0.5% or 1% or 2%, whatever they are, they get, I think, exponentially greater if the Clippers lose in the first round. And if he leaves, he's only going to one of 2 places, Miami or New York. So
I want my cake and I want to eat it too. So I would like the Clippers to beat Dallas, so that way Dallas continues to look bad since the Porzingis trade. And then I want the Clippers to have tanked to avoid the Lakers in the bracket and then not even see the Lakers in that side of the bracket. So like them lose to Utah. So that's what I'm rooting for. Then Kawhi leaves and
I don't even think that would get him to leave. I think it would have to be like some kind of a catastrophic.
Well, John, we're talking going from 5% to 10% if he goes in the first round. If he leaves in the first round, I don't think he's leaving if they get swept by Dallas. Like, that's the thing. He left a championship winner to go live in Los Angeles, to then go move to New York 2 years later. It's just like the opposite.
I think it depends on how they're not going to get swept, obviously, but I think it depends on how, I don't know.
My answer, by the way, I'm a Chris Paul guy, so it sucks that they're playing the Lakers, but I'm kind of picking. I want Chris Paul to at least get to a final, so some narratives go away. I think he's the modern day Dirk. He needs one ring, so that way people will shut up.
Well,
so Dirk got his in 2011, and then people shut up after that. And then I'm with Oz on the Bucks, but for a different reason. I hate tanking with a passion, and the process folk have started to get louder because the Sixers are the 1 seed. So I would like the Bucks to be rewarded for a star, actually, like to reward Giannis for staying with the team that drafted him and signing the max there. And I'd like them to be rewarded for how they built the team rather than losing for the sake of winning.
Yeah, whatever. I don't really.
I do. Like the years of the Knicks winning close games and being like, see, we could have got Luka, or it's a lottery. Shut up.
I was very impassioned. I appreciate that.
I hate tanking with a passion.
I hate it too. That's why I remember having this conversation.
I know
over the summer where he wanted us. Trade for Chris Paul will be a spunky 6 seed. Little did we know that if we
Paul,
that we need like the 1 seed.